My name is Ava Monroe. The morning it all ended, my little brother looked me dead in the eye and said, "Cancel your doctor's appointment and drive me to my game." I said no. The sound of his palm hitting my face cracked through the kitchen like a gunshot. For half a second, everything went quiet. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock, even my own breathing. Then came the words that froze the air around me. "Selfish," he spat. "You'd let me miss the biggest game of my life because you're scared of a sore throat." My mother didn't move. She stood by the counter clutching his protein shaker like it was holy. My father didn't even look at me. His voice was calm, deliberate, the kind that kills more than it wounds. "His future matters, Ava. Yours doesn't." The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattered across the tile, and for the first time I didn't bend down to clean the mess. I just stared at the brown streaks bleeding toward my bare feet. That doctor's appointment, the one I'd waited 8 months for, was supposed to tell me if the lump in my neck was cancer. He wanted to throw a ball. I wanted to know if I was dying. And somehow in this house that made me the selfish one. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, the left side of my face burning, and realized this was the day I finally stopped being the shadow in someone else's spotlight. When I walked out that door, I knew one thing for sure: someone was going to lose everything. I just didn't know yet that it wouldn't be me. When people looked at the Monroe house from the street, they saw success. A polished 2-story home with perfect grass and the echo of a basketball bouncing until midnight. What they didn't see was me living underneath it in the unfinished basement that smelled like detergent and concrete dust. Ethan's world was made of light. Mine was made of noise. Every week, a new coach in a branded hoodie parked his truck in our driveway. My father would count out cash in crisp hundreds, while my mother filmed Ethan's drills like a proud producer. Their voices rose through the floorboards, cheers, laughter, the squeak of shoes on the hardwood they'd installed just for him. I used to sit on my mattress with noise-canceling headphones finishing design projects for night classes while the ceiling above me trembled with applause. Sometimes I'd pause and watch the dust drift in the air, thinking how strange it was that even the dust upstairs belonged to him. When I graduated college, I took the bus. My parents didn't come. Ethan had a tournament in Dallas, and Mom sent me a text that said, "So proud of you, sweetheart," followed by a basketball emoji. That was the year I stopped pretending their love could stretch far enough for both of us. Still, I sent money home every time they asked, just until the next season, Dad would say. I believed him. I always did. By 28, I had a job, an apartment, and a neck that hurt every time I swallowed. A small lump, nothing dramatic. But it was mine, and unlike everything else in that house, I couldn't give it up for Ethan. I didn't know it yet, but that quiet defiance was the first crack in the life they built around his dream. Saturday mornings used to smell like bacon and coffee in our house. That day it smelled like adrenaline and resentment. Ethan was already pacing the living room, tossing his duffel bag from one hand to the other, muttering stats under his breath like he was rehearsing scripture. The sound made my skin crawl. "Come on, Ava," he called, voice sharp, full of expectation. "We need to leave in 20 minutes. I didn't move. I was standing by the kitchen island, coffee in hand, staring at the reminder glowing on my phone screen. Dr. Elise Carter, endocrinology, 10:30 a.m. 8 months. I'd waited for that appointment. 8 months of swallowing around a lump that felt harder every week. "I'm not driving you," I said quietly. "I have my appointment today." He stopped pacing, his face twisting like I'd spoken another language. "You're kidding, right? This is the state qualifier. Every recruiter's gonna be there. It's not optional, Ethan. They're testing for something serious, then reschedule it." The argument turned fast. My mother appeared from the hallway, my father behind her, both already on his side before I could finish a sentence. I tried explaining how long I'd waited, how scared I was, but every word just slid off their faces, and then his hand flew. One clean hit. It didn't even feel real until I tasted blood. The mug shattered beside me, coffee splattering up my jeans like rust. My father's voice came next, low, even final. "His future actually matters, Ava. Yours doesn't." That was the moment something in me broke clean in half. I wiped my mouth, walked upstairs, and packed. 3 days' worth of clothes, my laptop, my medical records, the emergency cash I'd been saving in a shoebox. When I walked back down, Ethan was yelling in the garage. I didn't answer. I opened the front door and stepped into the cold morning light. The door closed behind me with a sound I'll never forget, soft, final, almost peaceful. The waiting room smelled faintly of antiseptic and lemon. I sat there with a paper cup of water, trying not to touch the side of my face where his handprint still burned. The nurse called my name, did a small double take, then quickly looked away, professional but not unseeing. Dr. Elise Carter met me with calm eyes and a voice that sounded like steady ground. She was reviewing my chart when she finally looked up, noticing the bruise. "Ava," she said softly, "what happened?" The lie came easy. I walked into a door, but when I tried to say it, nothing came out. Instead, the truth spilled out in fragments. The argument, the slap, the words my father said. I expected pity. What I got was certainty. "You're not going back there tonight," she said. "Not if I can help it." The exam was quick, a small needle, a bandage, the quiet buzz of medical equipment. When it was over, she asked if I had a safe place to stay. I didn't. My lease had ended 2 months earlier, and I'd been sleeping in my parents' basement when I wasn't at work. She handed me a set of keys. "Guest room down the hall from mine, and a very friendly golden retriever who'll guard you like it's his job." That night in her kitchen, she poured 2 glasses of red wine while I iced my cheek with a bag of frozen peas. She opened her laptop to help me fill out the hospital's insurance form, but when she typed in my name, something caught her attention. Her brows knit together. "Ava, why are there 9 credit cards under your name?" I laughed, thinking she was joking. But then she turned the screen toward me. There it was, 9 accounts all maxed out, opened over the last 3 years. Charges for flights, equipment, hotels, coaching fees. All of it for Ethan. All of it under my identity. And just like that, I realized my family hadn't only stolen my love, they'd stolen my entire future. 2 weeks later, I was standing in Dr. Carter's kitchen eating cereal straight from the box, when my phone started vibrating across the counter like it was trying to escape. The screen filled with messages. Old classmates, co-workers, numbers I didn't even recognize. At first I thought someone had died. Then I saw the headlines. "High school star caught in doping scandal. Ava Monroe tests positive for steroids." I froze. The article said the league had done surprise testing on all players throwing over 90 miles per hour. Ethan's name appeared first on the list. They'd found 3 banned substances, synthetic testosterone, nandrolone, and something I couldn't even pronounce. Within hours, his scholarship offers disappeared. Recruiters ghosted him. The highlight videos that once flooded his feed vanished like they'd never existed. By noon, Mom's texts started coming in. "You did this. You ruined him. If he hurts himself, it's your fault." Dad sent a single voice note, his voice so cold it didn't sound human. "You better pray I never see you again." Ethan sent dozens of messages before I blocked him. At first, begging, then cursing, then crying. Like a child who'd lost his favorite toy. But this wasn't a toy. It was the entire illusion they'd built, the dream they stole my name to fund, and it was collapsing right in front of them. Dr. Carter sat across from me, silent, watching. As the phone lit up again and again, I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just felt this eerie calm settle inside me, the kind that comes after a storm when you realize the wreckage is someone else's, not yours. That night, as I turned off my phone for good, I understood something for the first time. They'd spent years building him into a god. But gods fall hard, and when they do, the people who worship them fall harder. 30 days passed without a single word from me. No calls, no texts, no replies. I wasn't hiding. I was erasing them. New phone, new number, new email. My body healed. My voice steadied, and for the first time, silence didn't scare me. It felt earned, but silence can only take you so far. The morning I decided to act, I drove downtown to a law office, built of glass and steel, the kind that reflected the sky so perfectly, it looked untouchable. Inside, behind a walnut desk, sat Mason Grant, an old friend from college, who now specialized in financial crimes. He looked at me for a long moment before saying, "You look like hell, Ava." "Good," I answered, "because I'm done pretending." I dropped a binder on his desk 2 inches thick, filled with everything Dr. Carter and I had gathered: fake credit card applications, forged signatures, hotel receipts, invoices for training camps that matched every fraudulent charge. My father's company accounts, my mother's debit card, my brother's name as an authorized user. Mason flipped through it, eyes narrowing. "This isn't small, Ava. This is federal." "I want it all prosecuted," I said. "Every last cent." He didn't hesitate. By the next morning, the IRS and FBI had copies of every document. 10 days later, news broke: local contractor arrested in identity theft case. The photo showed my father face down on the hood of his truck, handcuffed. Mom was arrested in a grocery store parking lot, still holding protein powder. Ethan was detained 3 days later trying to practice alone at a public court, as if pretending he still had a future could make it real. I watched it all on TV from Dr. Carter's living room, the golden retriever asleep at my feet. I didn't celebrate. I didn't toast victory. I just whispered to the empty room. They thought I was the weak one. But weakness doesn't build cases. Weakness doesn't bring down empires. And that day I stopped being anyone's victim. 14 months later, I walked into a federal courtroom in Denver, wearing a plain black blazer. I sat in the last row, hands clasped, head down. I didn't want to be seen, but I wanted to witness it to make sure it was real. When the bailiff called the case, 3 people were led inside. My father came first, thinner gray at the temples, his orange jumpsuit hanging loose. He looked around the room, searching for someone to meet his eyes, but when he glanced my way, he didn't recognize me. Then came my mother, ankle monitor, hidden beneath wide-leg trousers, clutching a rosary. Finally, Ethan shuffled in, wrists cuffed in front, wearing prison-issued slides and a vacant stare. The prosecutor read the charges in a voice stripped of emotion: identity theft, wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy. My father pled guilty. So did my mother. Ethan's charges were lighter diversion program, probation, permanent ban from organized sports. When the judge asked if my father had anything to say, he put on the performance of his life. I was trying to give my son a future, he said. I never meant to hurt my daughter. A tear rolled down his cheek right on cue. The judge didn't flinch. Richard Monroe. She said, you used your daughter's name, her credit, her life. You'll serve 96 months in federal custody. No parole. My mother sobbed a broken animal sound. Ethan didn't move. The judge ordered restitution, $280,000 joint, and several liability and seizure of their house to repay part of it. When the gavel fell, something inside me finally went quiet. As the marshals led them away, my mother's eyes found mine. For a heartbeat, I saw the woman who used to braid my hair before school, but that woman was gone, and so was I. I stayed in my seat long after everyone left. The room smelled like paper and disinfectant, the kind of sterile air where justice lives. When I finally stepped outside, the Colorado sky was blindingly blue. For the first time, it didn't feel heavy above me. It felt open. A year after the sentencing, my biopsy results finally came back. Benign. Just a stubborn thyroid nodule that Dr. Carter later removed in a 40-minute outpatient surgery. I kept the pathology report framed on my desk, not because I liked looking at it, but because it reminded me how close I'd come to disappearing quietly without anyone noticing. With restitution money and the savings I'd managed to keep, I bought a small 1940s bungalow in Boulder a few miles from the foothills. The siding was dark green, the porch wide enough for a swing, and the backyard big enough for a dog. Milo, Dr. Carter's golden retriever's first puppy, claimed the space like he'd always belonged there. Sometimes I'd sit on the steps in the evening, listening to the wind in the aspens, trying to remember what it felt like to live waiting for permission. I couldn't anymore. That part of me was gone. One crisp October afternoon, I took a drive south toward my old neighborhood. I didn't plan to stop. I just wanted to see if it still existed the way I remembered. The Monroe house was still there, but it wasn't ours anymore. A bright red sold sign stood in the yard, and a young couple was unloading boxes from a U-Haul. Their little girl chased bubbles across what used to be Ethan's practice court. The stadium lights were gone. The driveway was clean. Even the echo that used to haunt the street had disappeared. I slowed the car just for a moment. The woman looked up, smiled, and waved the way neighbors do in Colorado, easy open, unafraid. I lifted a hand in return, then drove on. In the rearview mirror, I caught one last glimpse of the child running across the grass, laughing, the sun catching her hair. She didn't know her feet were landing where my scars once grew. By the time the house disappeared from view, I realized something simple. They had lost everything: money, reputation, the illusion of control. And I had gained something they could never buy: peace. As the mountains rose ahead of me, I rolled down the window and let the wind hit my face. For the first time in my life, I smiled without checking to see who might be watching.